Welcome everyone for this webinar this morning. Thank you for everybody who was able to join us this morning. It's a Sunday morning, so everybody's up and ready to go. I want to introduce our speaker. And her name is Archana Anand. She's a former electronics engineer turned into a health expert. Archana blends science and holistic wisdom to create simple, sustainable changes that deliver lasting results. Her metabolic renewal program empowers women to lose weight, boost energy, and take control of their health and eat with ease. She helps pre-menopausal women reset their metabolism and feel their best without extreme diets or workouts, which I love. Now, Archana is a board certified functional medicine health coach. She specializes in helping women in their 40s and 50s and beyond, not only to lose stubborn weight, but begin the journey of health, to regain health if you're struggling with it. So here's Archana Anand. It's over to you now.
Thank you, Savita. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this discussion. Let me quickly share my screen so you can see what I'm seeing, and this conversation will go a lot better. Share. All right. Are you guys seeing my slide?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. All right. So welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. And thank you for this opportunity, Savita and Diva team. I love talking about this and I love empowering women. That is my single biggest passion and my purpose in life. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But just before we get started, I just wanted to get a sense of how many of you here are above 40. Maybe you could just put something in the chat, just say me or whatever. Yeah, or say I, me, whatever. Just want to get a sense of, is everyone here in that age group?
Yes, and above.
Okay, yeah, 40 plus. That's what I meant. Yeah. Awesome. And how many of you have noticed whether you are in perimenopause or already in menopause, or maybe you could reflect back on your journey through menopause? How many of you have noticed changes in your body just out of the blue and kind of just wonder what's going on? All right, so we have a good number. So what I really want to do today is, if you are in perimenopause, help you understand this phase a little bit better. What are you experiencing? Why does that happen? And hopefully empower you with some actionable steps you can take to really take charge of your own health, because I fundamentally believe in empowerment and women owning their body and being the boss of the body, right? We need to understand our bodies and not rely on experts to help us make sense of everything, because the body is always talking to you, not to me as, you know, or a coach, or not to your doctor. Your body is talking to you, and we need to like listen to it. I feel like unfortunately most of us have not been conditioned to listen to our own bodies, and as soon as symptoms show up, we just get nervous, anxious, and we run to the expert, right? And unfortunately, the medical system, the way things are looked at, everything is compartmentalized, and we know the body is a very holistic system, right? Everything is talking to everything else. So the whole sort of compartmentalized approach doesn't work well in treating the underlying causes. It helps with certainly addressing symptoms and helping you manage symptoms, but I don't believe, and I have personal experience which I will share with you guys as to why the medical system fails in sort of addressing chronic conditions at the root level. So moving on, a little bit of statistics that hopefully will get you thinking. So on an average, you know, women tend to gain 10 to 15 pounds during menopause, and most of the time it happens to be around the abdomen. And there's specific scientific reasons for it. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it. Hopefully we'll talk about that. And most of us, at least growing up, maybe we've heard this from our mothers and grandmothers that, okay, you know what, you go through menopause and your periods stop, right? So all this sort of taboo associated with periods would stop, and most women, and a lot of women also have like terrible cycles. They have a lot of discomfort during their cycle, so they're actually looking forward to freedom from that. Most of us don't know how protective these hormones are actually for our body. So, which is why post-menopause, a woman's risk of a lot of chronic conditions goes up, even if your lifestyle doesn't change at all. If you've led a healthy lifestyle, if you're keeping everything the same, still a woman's risk of heart attack triples in the first 10 years of menopause. Osteoporosis, which probably there's a little bit more awareness, right? Like bone density loss. And then Alzheimer's, brain related neurodegenerative conditions, right? For by age 60, postmenopausal women are twice as likely as men to develop Alzheimer's. So a lot of brain related dementia, Alzheimer's, and some of early signs of it, I've certainly heard from a lot of my clients, like suddenly through menopause, they find that they forget more, like brain fog is a very common symptom of perimenopause. And that's sort of the first, not that if you have brain fog, you will develop Alzheimer's or dementia, but it's just saying, it's telling you that your brain is being impacted, right? So again, it's all about the awareness. So let me talk a little bit about me, and I'm not going to kind of go over what Savita has already shared, but really my journey from being an electronics engineer to now a health coach, and what really was a catalyst for that. And you can read the rest of it here, but I'm really going to just take a couple minutes and share that with you guys. So, no, I moved here in the early 2000s, got married, came here, and did my undergrad in India, came here, did my master's at University of Pennsylvania, electronics engineering, got a job right out of college, was working in hardware design. Great job. I was, I can't say my job was very stressful. I was obviously, a brown woman in a male-dominated industry, in a field that was very male-dominated. So I was checking off a lot of boxes, and it was really easy, low stress. So it was all going very well. But early 2000s, I actually developed a skin condition on my upper arms, and I saw my regular doctor, dermatologist, and all they gave me was a steroid cream. They said it's called keratosis pilaris, which is the scientific name, more commonly known as chicken skin. And, they said, put the steroid cream and it'll go away. So I put the steroid cream, obviously the rashes would go away. But when I stopped using it, it would come back. And that was kind of annoying me. Like, why do I have to constantly keep using it? But obviously I didn't have, I didn't know how to question that. So I just went on my own and started researching. And I was always a very avid, a food person, like in terms of trying to explore in the kitchen and cooking and things like that. And being a vegetarian, I think at that time, Atkins was very popular. So there was more focus on protein. So I was like, okay, you know what? I think my diet is lacking in protein. So let me just introduce more sources of protein. So I started cooking a lot with wheat gluten, pure wheat gluten. Seitan is what it's called. So they actually make fake meat with that. So I started cooking with it, and my husband always loved whatever I made, and he was a very willing participant in all my experiments. So we ate a lot of that stuff, and it completely messed up my digestion. I did not know this initially. When my digestion started getting messed up, I started reading up, and then I came across a paper which made a connection between gluten and digestion. I was like, oh, maybe this is probably why, because I'm definitely eating a lot more of this stuff now. And I took a break from it for a few weeks. My digestion improved, but not only that, my skin condition completely went away. And I was like, why didn't the doctor tell me this, that I was possibly eating something that could be causing this, right? Obviously, the doctor themselves didn't know that. So that was sort of the first spark that really triggered, like, okay, you know what, there's a huge connection between what you eat and your skin. And I know, like in Ayurveda in India, some of this is talked about, right? Like skin is a reflection of digestion, but it was really my first, live experience with it that really kind of sparked a little thought in my head. So that happened. And then my son was born in 2006. He was diagnosed with infant leukemia when he was 9 months old. So that was obviously a huge life-changing moment in terms of just like shakes you, right? So he went through chemotherapy, did great through all of that. Focusing on rebuilding his health was really one of my priorities at that time. So I really got into like just holistic health for his sake and for her whole family's sake. It really kind of changed both my husband and my perspective towards life, health, and why all this matters. So that was going along, and then my daughter was born 6 years later. She developed more chronic childhood conditions like eczema and croup. Croup was pretty severe in the winter. It's usually a very cold weather sort of condition. Inflammation. Fundamentally, they all come down to inflammation. By the time she was born, I was enough into holistic health, like just reading, experimenting on my own, apart from working my full-time engineering job, that I knew that Western medicine did not have an answer for eczema. And for all these conditions, for eczema, for croup, for my own skin condition, the treatment was always steroids. So I got the steroid cream, didn't really use it, but I was approaching it. By that time, I knew like it had to be her liver and gut. And I started just working on her with her diet, right? I mean, I can't say that stress was a big part for her because she was only like a year old. So and sleep obviously was okay. So I knew it was all immune system and just immature immune system. And I had to teach her immune system. So working on her liver and gut health was amazing because within a year, her eczema completely went away and her croup incidences were also gone. But this was the kicker. She had developed a peanut allergy also around a year and a half old. And I was not really bothered by it because, you can live in this country with a peanut allergy with an EpiPen. It's easy to do that. I was more focused on the eczema because kids with eczema have a higher propensity, higher probability of developing asthma when they grow older. So that was my primary focus, that what can I do to prevent that progression? And so I was really focused on eczema, but the great thing about the body, when you focus on one thing in a positive way, many other things are impacted too in a positive way. So not only did her eczema and her croup completely improve, she outgrew her peanut allergy without even focusing on that. So that was I would say that was probably the biggest aha moment for me. I was like, because her pediatrician was absolutely astounded that even without doing any treatments, and with how severe her allergy was, she completely outgrew it by the time she was like 3 years old. And her, all her tests came back completely negative for that. And peanut allergies are very, very difficult to outgrow. Less than 20% of kids with a peanut allergy ever outgrow. There are other food allergies you can outgrow. So anyway, long story short, that was a huge light bulb moment for me in terms of the power of food as medicine, right? So that's really what I would say drove my deep interest in that. And I actually went back to school just to learn more about this. At that point in time, I didn't even think that I would be doing this as my career. So, but I went back to school just to learn more, and I was just helping friends and family, and I started coaching as a hobby. And over time, I realized that I really love doing this. And initially, I used to work with everyone, men, women, kids, all of them. But working with women, I really enjoy that experience because I feel like certainly I could relate to them a lot more. And for me, one of my really goals is to build generational health. And I feel like generational health will only come from the mom. Like only when the mom is healthy can you really empower a whole family, which is why I really honed in on basically women like me. I empowered myself for the sake of my family. I want to help other women do that. And the first step is to take charge of your own health before we start empowering our families, right? So that is really why I, if you want to know, if you were curious about why do I work with women in this space particularly, that's really why I'm passionate about this. So moving on, hopefully, and if you have any questions about any of this, hopefully we'll have time for Q&A as well. So I'll address all of that. All right. So what's happening to my body, right? It could be somewhere, maybe like in your 30s, late 30s, depends on when menopause really comes for you, because it is pretty genetic in terms of the age of menopause. Usually you follow your mom's side of the family, and it can start anywhere from mid 30s. So unexplained weight gain, right? So these are, maybe you could relate to some of this, all of it. Cycle changes are usually the last thing to happen. Usually the first things to happen are just the weight gain, like just out of the blue, like you've just put on a few pounds, even though nothing has changed. Mood swings, low energy, like sleep disturbances. I don't know if any of you have noticed this. For me, this has been a big one. Just waking up, I was an excellent sleeper, and I just noticed that my sleep quality has really gone down. I don't have problem falling asleep, but I always wake up somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m. I still am able to go back to sleep. I feel like though I am just not able to sleep for more than 7 hours tops. Like there are days when I have the time to sleep, but I just cannot because the body just wakes up, right? And this was not the case even like a couple years back. So hair loss, dry skin. If you guys relate to any of these symptoms, you can just type in like anything that has been particularly bothersome for you. Yeah, infrequent. So for me, I am very close to menopause now. My mom hit menopause in her late 40s. I am there. My cycles are really all over the place now, and that didn't happen until like last year, right? So until then, it's all the other symptoms that I really noticed. So and I'll share my own journey in terms of what I do. But for me, the weight gain has not been a big thing. It's all the other, some of the other things like maybe mild mood swings, but sleep and hair loss has been my biggest changes, what I have noticed so far. So yeah, absolutely. In frequent periods, yeah, the period. So there's different. Perimenopause is a phase. Okay, let me move on. I think I talk about this in the next slide. So perimenopause is a phase that I think was not very well talked about until recently. I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, this has really exploded. It starts about 7 to 10 years before menopause, right? So, and I know like as a generation, maybe a lot of us tend to also have kids a little bit later. So if you're having kids in your early to mid 30s or even late 30s, many women I find are actually going from postpartum to perimenopause like directly. So the hormones never have a chance to like fully recover after the pregnancy, even before they actually jump into like perimenopause. But it's really the phase where the hormones kind of start their roller coaster ride before they completely flatten out. So we know that the cycle, now most of us were aware of the cycle changes, but what we really did not realize is how much it impacts metabolism. Now, the liver is one of the biggest organs that really gets impacted. And maybe now more and more people are aware of like, say, fatty liver. And, there's definitely that word being thrown around a lot more now. So there's more awareness. But the liver is like, in fact, I recently did a liver health series on social media. And this is a common phrase I use even with my clients, that liver is like the mom of the house. Because it does so much, and I don't think it's one of the most underappreciated organs in the body. We talk about heart health and brain health and sexual health and all that, but nobody talks about the liver. But it's literally like the mothership controlling everything else. So the liver is strongly involved in hormone metabolism and hormone detoxification. Apart from like if you have blood sugar issues, if you have cholesterol issues, if you have blood pressure issues, all of that also comes from suboptimal liver health. And even with nothing changing, because your estrogen levels start dropping, your progesterone levels start dropping, your liver actually becomes overloaded. So all that is why, even without changing your lifestyle, your blood sugar might go up. Suddenly you might find being pre-diabetic, or your cholesterol numbers have gone up like 20 points or something. Thyroid function, because again, the body is a very holistic system. There's something called the OAT axis, which is ovarian, adrenal, thyroid axis. So, when your ovaries start making less and less hormones, that is also going to your, it's talking to the thyroid, and obviously the brain is involved because the pituitary gland is what generates all these the primary hormone drivers. So it really impacts, which is why you have brain health symptoms, right? Like you start forgetting more, or you have mood issues. Not only that, when you start having hot flashes, right? Hot flashes and night sweats are actually triggered by your brain. And that is because your hormone levels start dropping. So we don't realize how every organ system in the body, and I missed joint health, right? So suddenly you find that you have random aches and pains. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this. Frozen shoulder is one of the most common symptoms of perimenopause. I have so many friends who have shoulder pain like out of the blue, and these are fairly active women. Who do yoga or some form of strength training, but just out of the blue, your body just like, you just start feeling like tight, and you have you just do a little bit more and your shoulder hurts. But generally joint health, right? Because inflammation in general goes up. Again, this goes back to the liver. So all this is to say that you only think your hormone levels are changing. Unfortunately, your entire body is changing, because every single organ system in the body has estrogen receptors. So when those levels start dropping, everything has to like keep up. And it just feels like you've hit a wall suddenly in your 40s, right? Because things that worked amazingly well in your 20s and 30s don't work anymore. Also because we all tend to abuse our bodies in our younger days, right? Like you can think of your college life or in your early 20s or even like 20s and 30s, when the body can put up with everything we throw at it, right? We have late nights, maybe some alcohol, maybe overdid alcohol, or even like junk food. And And then, okay, you gain some weight and then you just maybe cut out sugar or did some calorie restriction for a few days and you might have lost the weight, and now you find that that's not happening, right? So it's because your liver has put up with everything over time and it's really reached this threshold. And unfortunately, this threshold gets exacerbated by the hormone changes. So it's almost like a double whammy that happens in your 40s or late 30s. Like I said, it's usually the perimenopausal phase when everything seems very exaggerated. It's much harder to lose weight. It's much harder to make a positive impact on the body. I always tell my clients that we have to overcompensate in the 40s for what the body is going through. Most of us are not even compensating enough, forget overcompensating, which is why it feels like it's like a major uphill battle. So why do typical diets fail? So most of us have done something, right? Even in our younger days. Okay, you know what? I gained some weight. Like I said, you just cut out sugar, or you might have done like keto, or there's all kinds of plans like Weight Watchers, Beachbody, maybe some other. I'm not that I'm aware of all of them, but certainly there are enough and more programs out there, and that all work really well in your 20s and 30s. 40s, nothing seems to work, or it might work very temporarily, and then as soon as you go back to your lifestyle, like the pounds just like come rushing back, right? So the biggest problem that I find with a lot of these plans or diets is it's really they're not very supportive of hormones. It's a different body that we have in our 40s that we really have to cater to, and this is the beginning of a new normal, right? So it's not that you want to do something and go back to your old lifestyle. So that is the biggest, I feel like the sort of the hindrance to why a lot of the plans that worked before don't work anymore. So it's really important to address or treat this body now that we have right now. And what I have found out, that at least I work with all Indians. It's so amazing that the social media world has brought me all the Indian women across the US. And so I have, and I work with vegetarians who don't eat eggs to women who eat everything and everything in between. I personally am a vegetarian, but I eat eggs, so kind of somewhere in the middle, right? And what I have found that it doesn't matter what kind of dietary preference you have fundamentally. And, I'm not trying to ruffle feathers, but this is the cold fact that Indian food is just very, very low in protein. And that is really a super important nutrient for the body, especially in your perimenopausal and menopause and beyond, really, because it's and you might think, oh, my grandmother didn't live this way, my mother didn't live this way, and they were not focused on protein, and they were just eating rice and roti and all the grains, and they did just fine. I'm going to ask you, are you living the same lifestyle as your mother or grandmother did? I would honestly say that even our parents' generation were probably not the healthiest generation. They were more like the transition when we were switching from a lot of home to a little bit more convenience, not in terms of just gadgets, but even like a little bit of more processed food coming in. I would honestly just compare to like 2 generations and prior to that. So not only are we not leading the same lifestyle, right? In terms of food, in terms of sleep, stress, like all of that, right? We're sitting a lot more, they were a lot more physically active, but also the toxin burden on the body has exploded. And I don't think we really sit down and think about what is the toxin burden on the body. And every single day we have like a lot of toxins coming from the air, obviously, from your skincare, from your makeup, from your home care products, from clothing, from like cookware, if you use like non-stick and things like that. There's all kinds of toxin exposure. Everything has to be filtered by the liver, right? So when the liver is already becoming sluggish, the burden of these toxins is even more, which just exacerbates other symptoms in terms of metabolism and everything else going on through menopause. So it's what I like to focus on really is quality over quantity. So I've never done calorie counting in my life. I don't think it's a fun way of eating. And it really, 2 things, right? When you do, can somebody is unmuted? Can you just make sure that everyone else
Yeah,
is muted?
I will
Thank you.
unmute, mute
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, so we really want to focus on quality over quantity. So, right, I don't do calorie counting. Even the clients that I work with, we never do calorie counting. Really have to practice intuitive eating, right? Paying attention to your body's cues and eating to satiety. Eating to satiety is very important, and enjoying your meals. So I'm a huge believer of that food shouldn't be like punishment or a chore. You have to enjoy what you're eating. I believe in energy of everything. So if you don't enjoy what you're eating, you don't get the benefits of it. That's a very, very strong belief that I have. So really, I like to focus on protein. So actually, like next slide, let's move on. I talk about that here. So really focusing on nutrition over calories, right? So you really want to focus on nutrient density rather than calorie density. And protein is a star, like I said. And I believe the U.S. Department of Health's recommendation is 0.5 gram per kilogram of body weight, and I would say you want to shoot that is like the bare minimum to not just to survive. And that data is really based on like old frail men, not like and women's needs are much different, especially through menopause. So I like to shoot for at least 0.75 grams, right? So 0.75 grams per pound of body weight. So if you are, say, a 150-pound woman, you want to shoot for at least 100 grams of protein a day. And that should be split between different meals, not like, you just get all the protein between like 2 meals, somewhere between, I want to say 20 to like 35 to 40 grams per meal. You want to split that over like 3 meals. And the other big star or friend, I should say, is really fiber. And these are things that I don't think fiber particularly is not emphasized too much. And we all think that, okay, I'm getting enough fiber because I'm eating a lot of vegetables, I'm eating some dals and fruits and things like that. But I can, we can talk about this later, but there is a chart that I use in terms of fiber in common Indian foods, and I don't believe most of us are getting half of what we need. You probably get somewhere between 20 and I want to say maybe 30 grams, unless you're super conscious about this. But fiber is very important because fiber supports gut health, which really works in conjunction with your liver. So everything that your liver processes comes through the gut and has to either being absorbed by the body or come out of the body. So like I said, holistic, always think about everything's working with everything else, right? So the liver, you can have the great, wonderful liver health, but if your gut is not in good shape, it doesn't mean that, you still have symptoms, right? And so we have to really think about what aspects of the body we need to support more, and particularly through menopause, it is liver and the gut that really are a major, like literally the focus of what I do. Healthy fats are of course key, and that has to again support liver and gut health. For the liver, really, it's really the biggest loads generally are grains and processed foods like fats, really the bad fats. So that tends to be the biggest load on the liver. So when you start having blood sugar or cholesterol issues, it's because your liver is becoming slow. And also, of course, the toxin burden. So in general, that is what is happening. So you want to make sure that you focus on fiber, which will help the liver's job and the gut's job, and also protein, which lightens the load on the liver actually, and it supports liver health, it supports liver detoxification, it supports we all know, we think of protein more for muscle and bulking up and things like that, but protein is it is the building block of life. So the amino acids that it's broken down into. So in perimenopause and beyond, and this is when I say perimenopause, I'm really talking about like 50s, 60s, and like once your hormones are low, your symptoms will improve, but still you want to like support metabolism because you don't have the support of the hormones that were there before, right? In your 20s and 30s, you had amazing estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. And that was able to make up for some of the imperfections we had in our lifestyle. But what happens in 40s and beyond is we don't have the protective effect of those hormones anymore. So we need to compensate at least a little bit with lifestyle. We cannot completely compensate with lifestyle. We cannot outdo biology only with lifestyle. And I'll briefly touch upon like supplements and hormone replacement. But I like to think of lifestyle as the foundation, right? You need to have a very strong foundation, and then sometimes just having a strong foundation may not be enough. You need some extra support, which is where the other things will come in. But what I find a lot of women want is just all the other things, like what can I just take quickly to like help manage my symptoms? yes, they'll only help manage your symptoms, but you'll have to continue taking that for the rest of your life, right? So you're not really addressing the underlying cause. So we want to like build a strong foundation with lifestyle. And this is one part of it. Nutrition is a big part of it. So sugar, I know most of us will say, oh, I'm not eating too much sugar. I'm not eating too much processed food. Too much is a very subjective term, and it is different for each person. What your body can tolerate might be completely different from what somebody else's body can tolerate. So I would encourage you to actually take a break, like complete break for at least a few weeks, and see what that does. It's pretty amazing because the poison is in the dosage. And if you think, you know, you're eating only a little bit every day, there is still a constant trigger to the system that is triggering inflammation. The liver doesn't like even a little bit every day. You rather eat it infrequently, but maybe in a larger dose, so your body has time to heal from it. Hopefully this makes sense. But I wish I could go into more detail, but I want to make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to share about. But this is just kind of what my approach is in general. So this is nutrition, and you know, like pillars of health, right? So nutrition is one pillar of health. Physical activity is really important. Now, physical activity is not the needle mover for weight loss. And I'm talking more about the pillars of health that support good metabolism and hormone health. So nutrition is the biggest pillar. That is like the foundation, right? You're getting your raw material for everything, for metabolism from the nutrition. And sleep, stress management, and physical activity have to complement it. So if you've not heard of it already, hear it one more time. Strength training, really, really important. And I can personally speak from experience. It has been a game changer for me in terms of just helping me deal with, you know, like how I feel about myself through this. Because I said, I've gone through perimenopause already. I'm very close. Well, technically I'm still in perimenopause, but I'm very close to menopause. And I have been able to manage most of my symptoms pretty much with lifestyle. So strength training is really important, much more than cardio. Most of the women, even I work with, are only doing walking, yoga, maybe some very light, like weight training, maybe like with the you know, the big dumbbells, like 2 and 5 pounds. I personally, I don't impose this on anyone, but I believe women should lift heavy. And there is a lot of evidence for this in how it supports more, not for to like, you know, it's not about looking toned, of course. Who doesn't want to look toned, right? We all want to lose belly and look toned. But this is really to support your bones. Now, we all know that our risk of osteoporosis goes up in menopause. So what can we do to prevent that? So I always, you know, like you want to think about how you want your future to look like, and now is the time to focus on your life to have that future, right? So if you want to have stronger bones, you want to have more freedom of movement, you have to build stronger bones and have the muscle to support the bones. So which is why strength training really comes into play. And strength training will not work without having the raw material, which is your protein. So they have to work in sync. Just because you eat protein doesn't mean you'll build muscle. And just because you're doing strength training doesn't mean you'll build muscle also, because you don't if you don't eat enough protein. So they really have to support each other. But please stop overdoing cardio. Don't think I need to like walk more, I need to run more, I need to like get on the treadmill or the elliptical. Those things are good for just if you lead a very sedentary life, it's good for movement, but it does not do enough of an impact to really encourage weight loss. First of all, 80% of weight loss really comes from nutrition. Right? So you can go like slog all day at the gym, but if you're eating foods that are not right for your body, and I'm not saying most people are eating a lot of junk food, just eating foods that are not right for your body, which is very different. It could be what is considered healthy food, but it's just not right for you. If you're constantly eating that, your body is constantly fighting inflammation. So exercise cannot outdo a bad diet. So you will still probably see the scale doesn't change, which plenty of my clients come and tell me that. Also, calorie counting, like I said, doesn't work because I don't do that particularly, and I don't like it because I have worked with clients who were eating 1 meal a day, 1.5 meal a day in an effort to lose weight and still gaining weight. So calorie counting does not work for women. Yes, we need some calorie deficiency to lose weight, but there's a lot of nuances to calories that pure calorie counting can easily miss. So stop counting calories, focus on quality, try to understand what your body is trying to tell you, and these are things that we work on. So in terms of activity, yes, so strength training is great. Yoga, a lot of Indians do this anyway. for mobility and flexibility, and then impact training. Now, this is a little bit newer in research, but there is an expert in this. Her name is Dr. Stacy Sims. You can look her up. She really talks a lot about impact training, particularly to build bone density. If you already have osteopenia, or your doctor said your bone density scan has showed that you're on the path, you can absolutely reverse it, and not just stop it, but actually reverse it by focusing on foods that are rich in calcium and the activities that will support it, which is impact training, like doing a little bit of jumping, right? You don't have to go crazy and you can say, oh my God, my knees hurt. First of all, you can do whatever is possible, like slowly build up to it, but just some jump rope or burpees, or just like, jumping off from like one step, not too high, right? So whatever you can do, like simple jumps. According to her and the research that she's been involved in, that kind of jump training, little bit of impact. That's really what it is. It really supports the bones, and it forces the bone to grow, apparently, the bone density to improve. So that is something that very easy, very inexpensive to do, right? You don't have to go to a gym, get a jump rope and just do like simple skipping. I mean, and if you're afraid of balance, do whatever else, like, start somewhere, that's the whole point. Like, don't just wait for somebody to come and rescue you. That's a big mindset, I think, like a lot of us have, that we need to like own our body, own our health, and start making small changes consistently. The other thing I want to really emphasize on is anything natural is going to take time, right? It's not like popping a pill for a headache or something and you're noticing improvements right away. The body is fighting a lot, and not everything is visible to you. What is visible to you is what you eat, how you move your body, your sleep, and all that. Toxin exposure, most of us have no clue what's going on, right? Hormones, each day you can get hormone tested in perimenopause. It was highly inaccurate because your hormones go through a roller coaster within even like a day or a week. So hormone testing is just one point in time. So it could just mean that at that point of testing, your hormones looked fine. Doesn't mean 2 days later you didn't have like a crazy roller coaster ride of hormones. So really paying attention to the body's symptoms is very important. All right, and then sleep and stress management. 6 hours is the minimum, I believe. I mean, there is no magic number per se. Some women can survive in a little bit less, some need a little bit more, but really it's about quality over quantity. So if you can track sleep and things like that. So sleep hygiene and a couple of supplements that I find very helpful for sleep. One of them is definitely, this is something I've been taking for a few years, magnesium glycinate. It is very particular for sleep support, sleep and stress. You can also take melatonin, a little bit controversial, but certainly low dose is absolutely helpful because sleep is really important and your body does produce less melatonin as you age. So that can be helpful. And then L-theanine is another one that's a supplement. Stress management. I know stress is like, again, another thing you cannot really measure, as in the impact of your stress on your body, right? So at least going to bed with a relatively clean head is very important. So you know yourself best. What will help you relax, whether it's listening to old music, your favorite childhood music, or journaling, or meditation. More than meditation, I believe breath work is really great because that really calms your nervous system. A lot of people struggle with meditation. Just some simple breath work. There's a lot of free apps, Calm, Headspace. There's more, like there's plenty of apps now. And a simple 4, 7, 8 breath. So it's 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, 8-second exhale. Anytime you exhale longer than you inhale, that calms your nervous system, because inhalation speeds up your heart rate. Exhalation calms down your heart rate. So you want to calm yourself down before sleeping. So just some 2 to 3 minutes of breath work. Yoga Nidra is it's not really, it's lying down yoga. So on your bed, you just actually listen to it. You're not actually doing anything physically, but you can just, there's plenty of YouTube videos on this topic. It actually helps people fall asleep. For women who have racing thoughts and who just can't fall asleep, Yoga Nidra has been shown to be really helpful for that. And I definitely have clients who have trouble falling asleep try this, and it seems to work. So this is just a story of a client that worked with me, and Amrita, she is in her early 40s. On the outside, everything looks great. She has a great job and, 1 daughter and wonderful supportive husband, but just was, like dealing with a lot of physical issues and mental issues tied to that, right? Because she was overweight, she has had like extreme fatigue, lacked confidence to go out. She actually said she was not looking forward to going out at all, and felt unfit as a mom. Now that's pretty severe, right? I mean, and she had a daughter, so she really wanted to be a role model for her, and she felt like she was not being a good mom, and she felt unworthy as a mom, and she was not able to stick to any diet long enough. She tried plenty of diets. They helped her lose weight like for a couple of weeks or so, but it was so, she felt it was so restrictive that she couldn't really stick with it. So working with me 12 weeks later, this is my signature program. This is the only program I use for women in this age group. She lost 33 pounds in 12 weeks. And she said, my hair is looking better, skin is looking better. So many people are complimenting me on my skin, which makes sense, right? When your digestion improves, when your gut health improves, your skin improves. I look forward to going out, and she apparently was able to run with her daughter for the first time in over 7 years. And she said, I could keep up with her. So that was a big thing for her. I mean, these seem so trivial, right? But we don't understand the impact of how we feel, what it does to our psyche in terms of mental, emotional, and it unfortunately it will sort of affect every aspect of your health. How confidently you are at work, how confidently you are outside, right? So, and more than anything, she said, I regained belief in myself and the ability to do hard things. And that's why I love focusing on health, because we have to, I mean, life is hard. This is one of my favorite quotes. Life is hard. Being unhealthy is hard. Being healthy is also hard, because, being unhealthy, you're dealing with the symptoms tied to it and all the side effects of that. Being healthy is hard because that takes commitment and consistency. Which hard do you want to choose? Right? The choice is always ours. Like, both are easy. Both, you look at it that way too. Oh, I don't have to do anything here. When you feel great, everything will feel easy. So you can look at it as both are easy, both are difficult, both are hard. I actually think both are hard, because there are days when I don't want to get up and go to the gym. But once I get out of my bed and I'm in the gym, I feel amazing. There has not been a single workout I've regretted. And hopefully you guys feel that too. That when you work out, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Unless you maybe enjoyed yourself, but for the most part, right? So, and I asked her, who is this program best for? And this is what she said. Any woman who's lost love for and respect for herself, not taking care of herself, but always on her toes for the rest of the family. Anyone who needs to learn self-love in a meaningful way. Because when you are better, when you feel better, and this is something a lot of Indian women struggle with, making themselves a priority. But we all know you cannot fill others' cups with an empty cup. And if your cup is empty, how do you be a better mom? How do you be a better wife? How do you be even a better person, right? When you don't feel good about yourself. So I think a little bit of selfishness is important so you can be selfless. They're like two sides of the same coin. You cannot be just selfless without being selfish, because eventually the quality of what you're giving will really go down. So what is your next step? I would encourage you all to think about, where do you want to see yourself 3 to 6 months from now? And how would you want your long term to look like? Like, what are the things you want to be able to do in your 60s and 70s? I'll tell you, I love hiking. For my 40th, I actually hiked up Kilimanjaro. I told my husband, I don't want a party. I want to do something that challenges me. So when I hit 40, fortunately, he was a very willing participant. We both went, left the kids here. My parents took care of them, and we hiked up Kilimanjaro. I had never done anything like that before. And that was the beginning of my love with hiking. So since then, I went to the Himalayas once and did a hike. So for me, 60s and 70s is about being independent, being able to travel, do the things I love, not being on medication, having the freedom of movement, not having to rely on my kids or anyone, right? So that is my goal. So whatever I'm doing right now is to support that. So what are the things you want to be able to do in your 60s and 70s? And you might think, oh, you know what, once my kids are out of the house or once I'm retired, I'm going to focus on all this. It might be too late if you don't have the body to support that, right? So now is the time to really build your body and your life to support what you want in your 60s and 70s. So this is another thing that another quote that I love, and I often use to remind myself and share with my clients, that you may not have caused the situation you're in, but transforming it is entirely in your hands. So it's taking responsibility for our situation and being the change, right? You have to drive the change. It's like sometimes we wish things will get better and then I will do this. You wait for the stars to align. Sometimes they rarely will, right? Like there's always, life is busy for all of us. We have busy jobs, we have demanding, like just lives in general, social life, like professional life. And if we wait for things to like get calm, I don't know when that ever does for an average woman living here, right? So you have to just get started, because it's also not about perfection, about progress. So do things just one step at a time and build on it, and it'll happen. So I think that's all I had. Thank you all for listening to me patiently. I probably went over time, but I think I just love to talk on this topic, and hopefully we have some time for Q&A. Savita, do we?
Yeah, of course. We can keep it as long as we want. This is
Okay, wonderful.
there's
So
no
anyone have
time.
questions, please
Yeah, so
feel free.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
You had talked about what food is good for me. So how does one know what is good for me?
Great question. So you can start with the basics, right? So we all know, like, so I'm going to go with an average Indian diet, right? Whether you are a vegetarian or a meat eater, doesn't matter. Start with the protein, right? So like for women, you always, this is what I use with my clients too, like start with the protein and build your meal around that. And you'll have to try things out, right? So you can, most of us have a little bit of sense, oh, when I eat this, I'm not feeling that good anymore. Like I'm just feeling bloated. Sometimes we just ignore it, or we'll just take something to take care of the bloating. That's not how we should approach it. You want to really address it as, okay, my body is telling me that it doesn't like this. When it causes bloating, when something causes bloating, that's a food that's triggering some issue in the body. You don't want to just silence it. You want to like maybe take a complete break from it for a few days or a couple of weeks and then reintroduce it. So it's a little bit of trial and error, and which is one of the things that we do in the program as well, but we'll have a lot more guidance and I have a more structured approach to this. But it's always about keeping foods as close to nature as possible. That is a big focus for me. Keeping foods close to nature without calorie counting, eating to satiety, taking your time to eat, right? So a lot of us have working lunches where like gobbling up food, not really chewing. Digestion starts in your mouth, right? So you want to like chew your food, take your time to eat, which really makes your stomach's job a lot easier. And then obviously everything downstream after that will be a lot easier too. Did that answer your question? I know there's a lot more to this, unfortunately, maybe beyond the scope of this call, but it's really about starting with what you know. And maybe if you feel like there are some foods that your body is not quite responding as well to, taking a break from them, and that will help you realize if that's really true insensitivity or a problem that you should just like maybe avoid. And this is where like I said earlier, instead of having a little bit every day, you want to reduce your exposure by making it more infrequent rather than having a little bit every day, because a little bit every day of a problematic food which triggers symptoms like knee pain, like digestive issues, or your weight goes up. Like for me, I will share this. My body does not like gluten. Earlier it used to be digestive symptoms and my skin, but now I don't get that because my gut has really improved. So I can definitely deal with gluten, but my weight will go up like 2-3 pounds if I have a big exposure of gluten, because that is my body's way of telling me that it is not liking that. So that means that food is triggering inflammation, which causes my body to retain water. That is for gluten for me. And I can tell you confidently that gluten is, I know we all talk, I mean, there's a lot of information about this online too, right? You can read about it. Gluten is a problem in this country because of not your body per se, well, to some extent, most of our bodies, but really how the crop has changed. It is not the same crop. And a lot of people find when they go to India, they deal with it better. When they eat in Europe, the food quality is better. So gluten has a less of an impact. There's something about our food system here that really doesn't support health, unfortunately. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. One other question. You had mentioned magnesium. What milligram do you take?
I mean, you can start out. So it's very difficult to like OD on magnesium. You can start with like 200 milligrams a night. You can take anywhere from 200 to 400. So start with 200 for a few nights and see if that helps.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay.
We can make it as long as we need. Don't worry.
Sorry. Yeah. So as Indians, I mean, almost it's close to 70. And as Indians, we grew up as eating wheat all our life. And coming here in last 15 years, wheat has become such a bad gluten. So why and what can we do? Because some of us feel like wheat is our satisfaction, the bread we eat. So what can be done? Should we stop, or is there an alternative to that, or what can be done?
Great question. So it's really there's no simple answer to this. I will say this: the wheat that you commonly find now in the Indian store or even like the regular American store is a problem. What you can do is try to find some older forms of wheat, right? So they have changed the wheat as a crop, and our bodies have changed. So two variables have changed. Not only has your body changed, right? The crop has also changed. So it's almost like a double whammy again. So you can find older forms of wheat. There's something called ain corn, like a kapli wheat, I think. There's a that's the Hindi name for it. There are definitely some older variations of the wheat crop that you can find. It's definitely going to be more expensive, right? So, but that can, I would say that is definitely better suited for the body if you don't want to give up wheat completely. But first things I would say is improve your liver health, improve your gut health, because gluten has protein. This is another big reason why gluten is a big culprit for autoimmune conditions, and women are more susceptible to autoimmune conditions than men. Gluten has proteins that mimics the body's proteins. So which is why gluten tends to trigger immune reactions in the body. So you want to improve, take a break from it for a few weeks. And honestly, few weeks is a drop in the bucket. If you're going to live another 20, 30 years, few weeks is nothing, right? You should, in the interest of health, what are you willing to do? I always say, like, everything is hard. Everything has a price we have to pay, right? There's no free lunch in life, right?
No.
So you have to realize, what price am I willing to at least temporarily pay for the sake of my long-term health? That is a question we all have to ask ourselves, and the answer will probably look different, right? There's no right or wrong. It's what are you willing to do. So allow your gut health to heal. Like I said, toxin exposure, that is really a silent epidemic because we don't know. The medical system doesn't test for toxins. There are functional tests that will help you understand. Mold is a big thing in the US. Obviously toxins, all kinds of toxins, like parasites. Most of us who grew up in India probably have parasites. Have you ever done a parasite cleanse? Parasites are like, they suck up nutrients from your gut. So a lot of issues our body is fighting, right? So we don't want to change anything because we grew up a certain way. But like I said, we're fighting so much internally, right? Which is why people suddenly develop allergies out of the blue. It's not out of the blue. It's just the body has been trying to tolerate, and then it has crossed the threshold. Did that answer your question?
It definitely did, and help me. But one quick short I will make, because I know there are many other people who would like to ask you. Quick one. Since you said improve your liver and protein, so as a Indian family, lentils were our proteins. So if you're taking lentils in the what you call the protein powder from the plant-based protein powder, would you say that's too much, or either one or the other?
No. Lentils are a good source of protein, but they're still predominantly carbs.
Okay.
This is, yes, we hear this a lot. I know I'm eating a lot of protein. I'm eating lentils. You can look up any nutrient chart anywhere. Lentils have 3 times as much carbs as they have protein. Yes, they have more protein than grains. So they are a better source of protein, but they're still not a very good source of protein. Okay. You will have to eat a lot of lentils to get your daily, protein requirement. So diversity is also important. So certainly lentils should be a big part of your diet. Rely on yogurt, on certainly protein powder, soy. You can use tofu or edamame, right? So those are good. If you eat eggs, have eggs. Diversity is really important. So trying to get different sources too.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I have a question regarding the sleep deficiency. So I have hard time having like a good sleep without a sleep aid. Yeah. I have been on a healthy diet for almost like 5-6 years, and I'm pretty active. I have been using magnesium glycinate for almost a year, 100 milligram per day. It didn't help. And I mostly use melatonin, but I'm already up to like 3 milligram. I don't want to increase it anymore. I have tried all sort of things that they say that help. It doesn't. The only thing that helps is to sleep is either seaweed. I snack a lot on seaweed.
Okay.
Or tart cherry.
Tart cherry. Yeah,
when I
tart cherry
eat.
is really good because it's naturally rich in some sleep supporting nutrients. Like,
Yes, it does. It helps a little bit, but it's still the quality. I normally like to sleep for at least 8 hours to be productive for the whole day. And I like to be productive the entire day when I'm awake because I do a lot of studying
yeah.
and a lot of work on the computers. So is there anything else that you think might help with sleep without me increasing the doses of melatonin?
Yeah. So two things. First, I want to ask, where are you with respect to menopause?
I have a regular period.
Okay. So, but you're in your 40s, so you're probably perimenopausal.
I'm not in premenopausal either.
How do you know that?
I consulted my gynecologist
Oh, I'm
like
sorry. I'm
regularly.
going to disagree there. If you're in your 40s, you're definitely perimenopausal. I don't know on what basis OBGYNs come up with that. Did they look at like hormones, or even like I mentioned earlier, even hormone tests are not very accurate. If you're having sleep issues, I would actually suggest talking to your doctor about progesterone, because progesterone is a calming hormone that naturally drops obviously through perimenopause, even if you have regular cycles. Trust me, I had my hormones tested. Even when I had normal progesterone, my sleep was already kind of being affected. um, Before that, let me ask about your sleep hygiene, right? So you said you work a lot on the computers and you read. So are you limiting your blue light exposure? The other thing is, for sleep, you want to, sounds like your circadian rhythm may be a little bit off, right? So are you getting some light exposure in the morning? Within waking up, 1 hour of waking up, try to get some natural light into your eyes for like 10 minutes, even if it's cold. Right now anyway, the weather's great. Step outside, whether in your deck or your wherever, right? Wherever, you don't have to directly look at the sun, you just have to get some natural light for like 10 minutes. That actually, the impacts melatonin production later on. So we are our body clocks are actually aligned with the sun. So unfortunately, with the artificial lighting, we have switched everything up, right? We can stay up late because of artificial lighting, but previously, people lived according to the sunlight, right? We eat according to sunlight, we slept according to sunlight, but now everything can be manipulated with artificial everything. So I would really look into that, like light exposure in the morning, making sure you limit your light exposure in the evening, right? 2 hours before bedtime. If you have trouble falling asleep, you want to maybe get some really good quality blue light blockers, not $10 ones from Amazon. They should look like orange, which will really limit all the blue and green wavelengths of light. And that, maybe try that for a week or two. Those would be like simple changes to do, right? Without having anything externally. But I would really encourage you to consider talking to a menopause aware practitioner. Not all OBGYNs are menopause aware, unfortunately. In fact, I just got an appointment after 3 months with a doctor who is qualified to dispense hormone replacement, because I'm going to talk to her about that for myself. So, and we didn't talk about it today, but there was a lot of misinformation about hormones, but they can be tremendously helpful, not just for symptoms, but also postmenopausal health. So for me, it's more about postmenopausal health, like keeping my bone density and a lot of other things. So definitely find a practitioner who's a little bit more menopause aware. And it may not be the right solution for you, but you should be able to make that decision by having that conversation with a informed practitioner, right? So it's all about empowerment. Like Savita was also saying, like, be more aware. Like, a lot of the information was very misguided before, and the science is changing. So we just need to, unfortunately, it's all come down on us. We can't just rely on experts for all the answers. Hopefully that helped, whoever asked that
Yeah,
question.
I do. Thank you. Some of the suggestion which I meant, I have been using blue light
Baucus, yeah.
blockers on almost all my electronics, including TV and also. I'm not too much worried about that. But yes, one thing probably I would start doing is like once I wake up, immediately go out for a few minutes, and maybe the progesterone therapy
Yeah.
I'll consult
Progesterone
and
can be.
see
You
if
can
can
start at
help.
the lowest dose, and just, if you have a uterus, any woman with a uterus absolutely needs progesterone. If you don't have a uterus, you don't need progesterone. But progesterone is really helpful for sleep. I know plenty of people taking progesterone, women in their early 40s. So if your doctor said you're perimenopausal, I would honestly suggest finding a different doctor.
Okay, all right, I will check that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Anyone else have? So what was your biggest takeaway from this? What is the one thing that you learned, and hopefully that has made a difference for you? You can share on the chat or just unmute, speak up, whatever's easier.
I think intake of your right food was most important, which many of us don't know exactly. We just listen to each other when you go to the parties. Oh, I'm taking this. Oh, I'm taking that. Oh, I'm taking that. Okay. Oh, I should be taking that then. I should, but we never do the right way. That's what I
no,
think.
I can totally see that because there is a lot of conflicting information out there too, right? So we all feel confused, and one person will say something, one person will say something else. So then what do you? This is where listening to your own body, right? There is a quote that we all probably have heard of it, that one man's food can be another man's poison. Right.
Correct.
So what works for one person need not necessarily work for you. So just obviously we don't have the time and wherewithal to try all of these things and figure out, right? So which is why working with a coach or someone who's qualified, who's done this before, will really help, because that takes a little bit of guesswork out of your plate, right? So, and then will help you have someone to reach out to for support and accountability, and if you have any questions. So I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a guessing game if you're doing it all by yourself, and most of us don't have enough time. But nutrition is always first because it is the foundation, right? It's food, air, and those are the basics of life, right? So that is a raw material. So if you don't have good raw material that supports health, then nothing else matters. You can take all the expensive supplements in the world, but won't help as much.
So Archana, how, for the audience who are joined today, how would they get hold of you? And if they want some coaching, and just to answer your takeaway, I feel like I just started my journey of, I'm going to be 60 this year. So I'm
congratulations.
past the 40s and the 50s. So I am more.
I'm sure you have wisdom to share.
So I am more into now, I do at least 3 times a week strength training. I was an advocate runner all the time, cardio. But now as I get older, my joints are hurting. I'm like in a totally different phase of life. And as you said, how do I want to be when I'm, 60, 70, to be able to support myself? And I don't think people at 40 realize that there is life and that you need to take care of your body. And if I knew what I know now as today, everybody who asks me will give us some advice, and I always say, educate yourself.
Focus on yourself, right? Take time for yourself. I feel like 40s it's one of the most challenging decades because women are pulled in every direction. You have aging parents, maybe you have kids who are like young, teenage, going through college admission. Like there's just demanding like work. There's just, you're pulled in every direction that they just are not able to make time for themselves. And I'd say that I understand, and you have to know that you cannot be any of it if you're not yourself, right? So start somewhere, but start. Right? Like start small and build on it. Don't give up too soon, because that's the other thing I find a lot of women saying that, oh, I tried for a couple of weeks and it wasn't working. Right? I mean, 2 weeks is not long enough. You're doing something natural. You have to like give it time, consistency, persistence. That's very important. Will you tell your kid they tried something for 2 weeks and just give up? I mean, you're going to tell them like, keep trying, right? So just because something didn't work in the short term, of course, if the body is giving you some conflicting information, I can understand that. But things are progressing slowly. That's, it's still working, but just make yourself a priority, ladies. It's really, really important to do that now. So, you have the life that
tell us how somebody can get hold of you.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a website, soulfullyhealthywitharchana.com. I actually blog there. I don't have a podcast yet. So I do blog. I share recipes. I share, my take on health related topics. So you can certainly follow my blog. You can also sign up for my blog, obviously, on that. And if you want to book a call, there's links to it. You can book a free call with me. We'll talk for an hour and really see if my program will be a good fit for you. So definitely, that my website would be the best place to start out with. And I have some free resources there too, like just to get a little bit. I have a free webinar on metabolism where I go a little bit more into liver and gut and all that. So you can listen to it. You can register for it on my website. So all of that is there. So that I do have that listed on the last page of the webinar as well. So I don't know if you want to share that, or you can just put, let me just put it in the chat if people want to I
did already.
You did? Okay, thank you. Thank
Yep.
you very much. Yeah.
And also, just I want to add that when you said the jumping jacks and all that, I agree with that. But as we age, we think that we cannot do jumping jacks and stuff. So, what I am doing since November, I know a lot of Indians don't know swimming and whatever, but do the jumping jacks and weights and everything in water, in pool. It is so
Wonderful.
convenient. I do all kind of hopping and everything I can do in water. I don't know swimming, but I love 1.5 hour or 1 hour I am spending. But I have seen improvement in all
Wonderful.
kind of my number. Every number is down. I'm not even trying to reduce anything, but it is going down. So it is very good.
Wonderful.
I used to
Yeah,
have
thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I mean, there's always ways, ladies. Just don't give up. And a lot of this age-related thing is so much of mindset. I mean, we have plenty of examples of women and men in their 60s and 70s doing all kinds of amazing things. So let's not stop, like, because that's what we have seen. Like in India, life stops after 60, then they're just coasting to the finish line, right? Like I still hear, like previous generation talk like that, right? But it's that's what you've conditioned to. So like my yoga instructor would always say, if you live around people like that, that will become your normal. If you live around people who believe that, oh, balance will get bad as you age, this will get bad as you age, that will become your normal. And we are what we think, right? So you have to believe that you don't need to get frail as you get older. Like do whatever is possible. Genetics is only one aspect of our life. It doesn't drive our whole life, right? It's like they say genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So even if you have a genetic predisposition to any chronic condition, don't resign to, oh, I am going to get this. No, you're not going to get it. If you believe it, yes, right? So you have to believe that there is still a lot in your hand to impact change, especially if it's type 2 diabetes and cholesterol. Absolutely not. There is so much research now that says that even if you have parents or your entire family's prior had, doesn't mean you will get it. So yes, you might have to work a little bit harder because there might be genes that possibly are working against you, but you can still influence change.
Yeah, this is Manjula. So my biggest takeaway was listening to your body, which I've been like kind of like was doing. And that's how I was able to figure out like my bloating issues is kind of more related to milk and cheese
Yeah.
and raw vegetables, to my surprise. Sometimes even that cause. And sometimes it's like so this thing, my question to you is, whatever we have noticed, will this go away or for your lifetime that you have to be not eating those, or how is that?
Great question. So it depends. If you're able to work on your health and improve, like for example, you said raw vegetables, right? You notice bloating. I would very confidently say that's because your stomach acid production has gone down. Your stomach's acid production. Your stomach needs to be extremely acidic. And I know, like, there are people dealing with acidity issues and they think it's because of too much stomach acid and they take medications to reduce stomach acid and all that. It's the complete opposite of approach of how the body works. The stomach needs to be really acidic, and over time and lifestyle choices, that's what really, when I say over time, age is only one part of it, your stomach acid production can go down. So you can actually reverse that, and then you can begin to handle raw vegetables again, right? So a lot of times if you take the time to improve your gut health, if you improve your liver health, you don't have to give up foods for life at all. I believe in like a 80-20 approach. You don't want to deprive yourself. At least that is my approach. So there might be people who say, okay, certain things are absolute no. I don't have anything like that. Obviously, I don't eat meat, so that's a no in my book, and that's more mental than anything else. But like things like alcohol, or we all know that these are all like, not supporting health, right? So if you take a period of time, give yourself a year, 2 years, whatever, everybody's body is different. But if you're able to work on improving your metabolic health, you can actually begin to handle a lot of those foods again. So I want to believe that those are not permanent.
Okay. Because like I'm like kind of like sometimes it's like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. Then again in the dairy, like sometimes some yogurt cause, sometimes yogurt doesn't.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
I have a
sometimes
lot of women I work with deal with bloating issues, and within like 2 weeks, many of them notice a tremendous improvement in bloating. In fact, one of them who's coming top of mind, she's from Ann Arbor. She couldn't join the call today, but she had severe bloating issues when she started working with me. And bloating is a clear sign that digestion is a problem for the body.
Correct.
Right, so you don't want to just take something to stop the bloating. You want to figure out what is the bloating actually telling me, like which food is causing this and what is that downstream, what could be happening, right? So it's just take a break from that food. If you know this food causes bloating, don't just eat that food and take something to stop the bloating like Tums and all that, right? So that actually is counterproductive. You want to, like, I know this might be hard, but again, it'll depend on what your goals are. This is why I say there's no right or wrong approach here. It's all like, what price are you willing to pay? What are you willing to put into this, right?
Yeah, sometimes it has. I was kind of correlating with hormones too. Like it's like, oh, during my periods time, just before
Definitely.
1 week, then it's
Definitely.
more bloating, and then
Sure.
so it's like food as well as like the hormones. But right now I'm kind of in perimenopause. It's like I don't even know like when I get my next period. So it's
Yeah.
like it's linking is also very difficult.
Definitely. No, I agree. Perimenopause is a very confusing period for us in general. Like the body is going through its own cycles, which we are not quite able to wrap around, right? Like it's not predictable. And then other impacts have caught up, like with the liver and all that. So yeah, bloating definitely with again, progesterone can cause that. When progesterone drops, you tend to have more
Yeah,
bloating issues
and
and all
also
that.
like I've found out like recently that oh, even egg is causing me too. So it's like it was never the case, and I used to rely on egg for my protein source, but
Yeah,
looks like now it's like so I'm kind of
interesting.
experimenting with the
You can try to increase bitter foods a little bit more, like have some bitters every day.
every day.
Bitter foods are great for bloating in general, just improving digestion, bile production. So arugula, radishes, obviously Karela is an obvious one, right? But I'm talking about other, which if you don't like Karela, that's not the only bitter food.
It's moringa leaves also comes under bitter.
Little bit, yeah, I would say that kind of falls in the but something that is fresher, like that you get. So here you get, definitely you get all these fresher, like greens, right? Like arugula, I don't know if you like, it's one of my favorites. Radishes you get, like any store. Really eating more that is grown. Yes, we grew up in India, but if you've lived here for 20 years, your body has adapted to this environment now, right? So we shouldn't just hang on to like things that I ate like 25 years ago and I want to still eat the same. That's fine. But the quality of, think about it, right? I mean, these foods are coming from halfway around the world. A lot of it is coming from Mexico. I mean, given that you and I live in states that don't really grow a lot in the winter anyway, a lot of it is coming. So the nutrient density goes down. And so you want to eat, I think a lot of people, like experts and like Rujita Divekar, they also talk about this. When you eat perishable foods, you want to eat a little bit more local. Right, so more greens that are here grown here, like kale is great. You can cook kale and have that. Like I said, arugula, dandelion. You can also get like digestive bitter drops that you can actually add, just to water before you have your meal. That can help stimulate bile production, and that can help with bloating and all that.
So when we join your program, basically you go through our health conditions and what we are noticing, and then you're kind of coming up with a plan, what foods to eat, what foods to avoid, or something like that. Is
Yeah,
that
kind of. It's not. So it's really a framework that is pretty general, but I personalize it for each person's lifestyle and conditions. So it might seem like everybody is doing the same thing, but there's a lot of personalization in terms of, we use some amount of fasting, but fasting is very different for each person depending on where you are and things like that. So a lot of personalization will happen, but it's not a very one-on-one. It's actually a hybrid program that I do. It's as one-on-one and also group, and it's really nice because they're all women in the US in this age group going through the same thing, so you kind of learn from each other as well.
So what did you study? Like I know you are basically an engineer, so you kind of like what did you study like to come up with all?
I have two certifications. One is from Institute of Integrative Nutrition and then Functional Medicine Coaching. And then I wrote a board exam to become board certified. And this is all you can find on my website, where I share my whole story. So I would really encourage you all to go to my website, read about me. There's a whole about me page where I share my son's story, my daughter's story, like a lot of what I shared today, and a little bit more about my background. And obviously there's more information about the program too on there.
Okay.
I have a bloating related question, quick question, please.
Sure.
So I have I've having a hard time trying to consume fish oil. I've tried all different kind of fish oil, the wild caught, different amount, always cause bloating, helps with inflammation. So then I switched to cod liver oil. But every time I take it's the bloating something is like I don't. I mean, it's always a problem. So all these information that you provided regarding bloating, will that help?
It could. I'm not able to offer, like, I'm, first of all, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not able to provide like individual, like, diagnosis and things like that. But a lot of the suggestions are very general that usually work for most people because they're very basic, very foundational, right? And obviously bloating can mean many different things. You could have bacteria overgrowth in your stomach or in your intestine, like I don't know if you've heard of SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. There are people who have like just H. pylori. H. pylori is very common in the US. And I have actually seen some women who had like extreme H. pylori in their stomach, Indian women. So that causes like extreme bloating, like it can start causing ulcer and things like that. So,
But isn't that fish oil cause bloating is quite common?
no, I don't think so. Fish oil is just it's concentrated omega-3, right? It's just pure fat. So if that is causing bloating, in my mind, it probably says you don't have enough bile production.
So my bloating, I don't have bloating with any food except the fish oil. That's the only thing I'm struggling
Do
with.
you take it on an
in
empty
including.
stomach?
No, I include it with food and I add fat as well, because it's fat soluble.
Yeah.
Nothing help. So every time I take a break, I start doing it. I start decreasing the amount, the dosage and everything. It doesn't help. I'm running out of option on like how to include it in my diet.
Do you eat meat at all? Do you eat fish?
I cannot survive. I mean, I cannot have my regular protein without meat. I don't know any other option. So I'm a
No, I
regular
mean,
meat
like,
eater.
you said you take fish oil, but can you eat fish?
Yes, I'm a big seafood lover. I
Does
grew
fish
up
cause
eating
problems
fish.
for you?
I'm sorry?
Does fish cause problems for you?
No.
Then why do you need omega-3 fish oil if you can eat fish regularly?
Because the doctor has recommended it, and I have been trying to do it for a very long time because it helps with the inflammation. I have seen the impact, even the low dosage cause the anti-inflammatory impact that I've seen. So that's the reason I want to
Yeah, I think
include
it's a little bit beyond the scope of this call. I probably need to talk one-on-one to understand this a little bit better. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to give very specific suggestions on this talk.
No, that's fine. Just one quick question. In your personal experience, have you ever encountered somebody becoming lactose intolerant and then all of a sudden they started tolerate lactose by any chance?
I have generally come across, I can't remember specifically lactose, but in general with foods that they were intolerant and then you can become tolerant. Like I said, if you improve your digestive system enough, basically all the way from your mouth to your colon, right? You can definitely tolerate some good foods. It could depend on the quality of the ingredient and all of that too. So, but yes, it's definitely possible.
Okay. Yeah, I'm studying epigenomics right now because of my curiosity, and that's one of the things that I'm hopeful because I'm lactose intolerant. I really want to turn my genes off, so that I can start consuming dairy. But yeah, I wanted just to see what's your
So
experience.
do you react to like dairy in the form of just milk or even yogurt or anything with
Trust me, I have tried every form of dairy which promises will help with the lactose intolerant people. Nothing helps. Even if I take like half a tablespoon of curd, no matter what curd is, I have tried all kind of curd. It doesn't help. Like
You mean
it
like
shows
plant-based
them
milk curds too?
Sorry?
Plant-based milk curds, like if you do oat milk yogurt or almond milk yogurt or
No,
something.
so plant-based has no problem because that's what I use for my tea and coffee. I use all the plant-based milk because I cannot tolerate dairy. Even a half spoon I cannot tolerate. That's how bad it is. But I grew up eating and drinking dairy, so I desperately want my intolerance to go away. And I've heard that epigenomics has certain answer to that question, so that's why I got curious. I'm studying it.
Yeah, okay,
So
yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
good. Honestly, if you find out, let me know. I'm not sure. I honestly don't think humans need milk. per se, like for living. We are the only mammals that consume milk beyond our infancy. It is not really necessary, but I understand the cultural, connection and wanting to have certain things because we grew up. Um,
Yeah,
but I don't
I
have a
agree.
clear answer for you.
I agree 100%. We don't need milk as an adult, but like there are few things that I enjoy dairy. That's the
Yeah,
only thing. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, maybe you could just, have you tried adding like digestive enzymes or anything that helps break
So
down
right now,
lactose?
that's what I do. Whenever I eat something like really dairy,
Yeah.
I always add lactate. I eat that, but I don't want to like have lactate every single time I like add milk in my product, like in my food. So that's the only
Understand.
thing I just want to get, because I don't want, my philosophy is like I do not want to add anything unnecessary in my body. And lactate is one of those things that I hate, but it's
Yeah.
something that I have to live with.
Understand. Yeah, I mean, because, like I said, we don't live in the same environment we grew up in. A lot of things are different. Our body is different, and obviously things have changed, right? So, it's a epigenomics is a very complex topic as well, how the genes are expressed, and it's very, I don't know if there's enough research to even say what particular gene actually turns this on or turns this off, and things like that. But gut health is also very complex in terms of how stress impacts it and bacterial balance. So adding a probiotic every day, like there are a lot of things, but these things take time, right? So it's always, anything natural will take time. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get healed overnight. So, and a lot of us don't have the patience and persistence to stick with these things.
Thank you,
Makes sense.
Archana.
Yeah.
I think we're
You're
running out
welcome.
of time here now.
Yes, I know I had to head out too. So
Yes. So thank you again
my
for
pleasure.
great session. It was great information. And I'm sure these ladies are going to probably call you, talk to you personally.
Happy
I
to
will
share
also.
my yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
Well,
absolutely.
thank
Yeah.
you so
So
much. Thank you, everyone, to join us. We will be ending this call. Thank you
thanks again, ladies. And thanks again, Savita, for reaching out and giving me this opportunity
Yeah,
to share my
absolutely.
passion.
You'll hear from me because I'm interested in my gut health. So
Sounds good. Awesome. Have a
thank
great
you.
rest of your Sunday, ladies. Take
Yes,
care.
happy Easter,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.